Why is she staring at me so intently? Like she stares at me like, I love you. I can't breathe without you, or I'm plotting your fucking murder. Come here, mommy. Come on. Good girl. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Sounds beautiful.
Okay. I thought that I was in love with this man, but I wasn't. I was not faithful in this relationship. A fantasy would be, I guess, a menage, me and you. Why would I?
All right, y'all. So I got a video. We're gonna go over Melyssa Ford as to why she's 48 and not married. I'm gonna give you my intake on why she's not married at the end. Let's get into it.
I want to date such a weak bitch. I was almost raped. I was addicted to him. I am 48, child free, and I've never been married. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford. Thank you so much for joining me. Whether you are commuting to or from work, or you've already gotten home and you are chilling with a glass of wine, or you're settling into your nighttime routine, I want you guys to just settle in and chill out with me because we're going to have a heart to heart like we've never had before. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to pour myself a glass of wine. This is the good stuff. Now, consider this episode a safe space. I really want to have a heart to heart about certain lifestyle choices that I've made. We've all seen the most recent political climate as it relates to the election. And it seems like women, we always seem to be the brunt of some kind of attack. And I don't really understand why. But when J.D. Vance said this,
saying is that we're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made. And so they want to make the rest of the.
And it's something. So he's saying childless cat ladies. So I wonder who has he been listening to for him to say a childless cat lady? Just a thought.
Country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it?
at first I was offended. And then when I thought about it, I really just had to laugh because never been married, childless cat ladies. Honestly, that sounds like a dream come true to me. I don't know. Like solitude, my own choices, and animals that love me. Oh my God, somebody, call the cops. This sounds awful. But, anyways, I know that I'm not the only one that felt that their life choices were put under attack. So, this episode is called I Am 48, I Am Child Free, and I've never been married. And guess what? That's okay. I never made it down the aisle, but I have been engaged in the past. How many engagements? I would say 2.5. Let's start with the 0.5 since that was the first.
Hold on. So how is it that it's a 0.5? So, I guess it was okay. So that's just women's math. How is an engagement just only a 0.5? I mean, I'm really curious to know what is a 0.5 engagement.
One. I was involved with a man who loved me. He was good looking, he was tall, he was charismatic, gregarious. Everybody loved him. My mom loved him, my sister loved him, my niece loved him, my friends loved him. Everybody loved him. But there was something inside of me that just said, this is not perfect. It's the furthest thing from.
So this shows right now that she won early off in life. So she won, she found a guy that he's handsome, she liked, the whole family liked, but it still wasn't enough for her to want to go through with it. Interesting. I heard this story so many times.
From perfect. He would say things like, nobody's ever going to love you the way that I love you. And I believed him. I wrestled with this internal sense of guilt. I wrestled with the guilt of honestly wanting to be free, honestly wanting to live my life and to date and to experience other men and to experience other things and other places. I just wanted to live my life. I had moved to New York from Toronto, a totally different country, with $25, 2 suitcases, and a one-way ticket. I didn't have permission from my country to leave. I didn't have permission.
And it's so I gotta say, so I mean, so that's incredible. So she was that ambitious that she would just have $25 in her pocket. She wasn't even supposed to leave her country, Toronto, Canada, and then she just wanted to do better. So I mean, yeah, so that's amazing.
From this country to be here, and I was making things happen for myself at a very, very rapid pace. And so to find myself inside of a relationship that felt so stifling at this very young age and not having the vocabulary to speak up for myself and articulate that somebody who loves you would not say those things to you. They wouldn't say that nobody will ever love you the way that I love you, because that indicates that there's a part of me that's broken or there's a part of me that's unlovable. But I didn't know how to articulate this. So I stayed in this relationship that I was wildly unhappy in for approximately 3.5 years.
So and it's so 3.5 years. So she's wildly unhappy. And the guy's handsome. Everybody like him. He treat her well, but it still wasn't enough. She was wildly unhappy. Interesting.
Close to four. And I have to admit, I was not faithful in this relationship. Nothing that I'm proud of, but I just chalk that up to.
She was not faithful, but hold on. I thought that men were the only one who cheat. Interesting. So this is one thing that I've been saying this for years that a lot of times people don't think about though is the average woman has never been turned down for sex before. So she go her whole life being able to just pick and choose whatever kind of guy she want to have sex with. Men can only get sex when it's available. So sex is not always available for a man. So yeah, so this is a perfect example right there. She could just be with, she's famous, she's beautiful, her body's tight. She could be with all kinds of men. So yeah.
I was really, really young and I was hood famous. You know, I was on the covers of magazines, on your local news
Hood famous. Yeah.
stand. So everybody recognized me. And that was another source of pressure that I felt being inside of this relationship rather than being free to explore all of my options. And so one day I was going through some drawers, you know, folding laundry, placing clothes, you know, in the drawers and such. And I found it. I found a box. And when I saw it, I said, please, God, don't let this be what I think it is. And I opened the box. And there it was. It was a ring. And the only thing that I could think was that it was an engagement ring. It sure as hell was not a promise ring. We were way beyond that. We were not in high school. I was not wearing this boy's varsity jacket. This was an engagement ring. And if I knew this man the way that I knew him, that proposal was going to be very public. And that terrified me. I didn't want to have to say no in front of our friends and family and publicly humiliate him. He did not deserve that, but I also could not see myself saying yes in front of everybody just to save face and then later on have to break it to him like that this is not something that I was going to be able to go forward with. So what I did instead was I packed up all my belongings while he was out of town and put them in storage and flew back to Canada. And then I had the conversation.
Wow. So this guy who treated her amazing, he was the perfect guy. And this is how she ended this relationship. And this is what I tell y'all a lot though. So it's very important to know, how do a woman leave her previous relationships? So does she just pack up and leave like that though? So she just gave him a call after she seen that he actually had an engagement ring, and she couldn't even tell him that face to face. She just dipped. This says a whole lot. It says a whole lot about how she do things. That was not a nice thing to do.
About us breaking up over the phone. I know what you're probably thinking as well. Yo, Melyssa, that's fucked up. I know. It took years for me to make peace with this decision. I have self-flagellated over this decision. I have beaten myself up every way to Sunday that you possibly can. I tried to reconcile with him at one point, which was a big mistake. That is the 0.5.
I had an ugly duckling phase. Don't tell anybody. I destroyed all the pictures, so there's no proof. Before I became a video model and a model, and I was like known as the brain amongst all my friends.
Also, the other thing that I wanted to go and address though, this is the main thing that most guys deal with, even myself, is it's very, very, very hard to find a woman that she's beautiful and she's not a hoe and she's not a slut. And then she actually can and will just make money with her mind without using her body. So it's very, very difficult. Yeah, well, I don't think she's drunk yet, best friend Rob. But yeah, just that it's very hard to find a woman that's beautiful and then she's not a stripper. She's not, she doesn't have a OnlyFans account. Nowadays, it's very, very hard to find that.
So I was studying forensic psychology with a minor in English literature.
Also, it's very hard to find a woman who's not in love with getting attention from men that she don't know, that she just only wants attention from one man. That's very hard to find.
In university, so the fact that I started to become known more for my looks than my brain is kind of ironic. The attention just snowballed, and I started to see that I was able to, make a business out of it.
Excuse me.
If it didn't make money, it didn't make sense.
Society places an enormous amount of pressure on us to check certain boxes. The box of go to school and excel. You've got to pursue a career based on what you went to school for. And you've got to excel and become successful. And you have to have your 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, 20-year plan, all while you're in your 20s. Get married, get the white picket fence, and have 2.3 kids. Never figured out the point situation when it came to the statistics, because what's a third of a kid?
And then the interesting thing, why is it that other races of women, they can go and have a career and do all that stuff and still get married and have kids while they're, right after college? Why is it that they can do it, but you can't do it? Just a thought.
I digress on that. The problem with the boxes is that we never check in with ourselves. It is never, ever, ever our first thought as to, well, what is it that I actually want? I am now, welcoming into my circle a lot of women who checked all those boxes. And for all intents and purposes, a lot of the stuff really actually did not work out. Yes, they ended up with the children, but they ended up in sometimes a loveless, sometimes an abusive, and sometimes a marriage of convenience. Sometimes they didn't even get the marriage. They just got the kids, and they inherited a whole lot of struggle and strife. And it's not to say that their choices are better or worse than the choices that I made. These are just choices. But for us women, I feel like our choices oftentimes have never really, really belonged to us. And when we have tried to exert our sense of independence, we are shamed for it. At this point, let me go on to the second engagement. So I'm 28 years old and I have left the previous relationship, the point five, and I have met this man who, the minute I saw him, I knew I was going to be with him. He just was it. I don't know how to describe.
You see this, y'all? So this is a perfect example as to why I say, and I have said, that a woman knows right away whether she will sleep with you or not within a few minutes. So yes, most of the time, guys are trying to build sexual attraction. No, she just don't like you. So it's not like she gonna just suddenly wake up and say, "Well, I like this guy now." No, it don't work like that. She just learned to tolerate you, and then she become a great actress. But yes, you can't make a person like you. So most guys mess up by trying to chase a woman that don't want them or she's not interested in them, thinking that it's the challenge. It's about getting a woman that has high interest in you. So when a woman has high interest in you like that, it is always better. It's always better.
And the second I heard his voice, I said, I'm going to marry this man. I don't know what it was. Like, he had this Louisiana drawl. It's my favorite Southern accent. He was huge, like 6'1", 246 pounds of hulking muscle. He had skin the color of like red clay. He had this thick neck, big round head. He had this crooked
And it's something, y'all. So this guy, I bet you, like I said, so he put it through all this stuff, and she still like this guy to this day. Look at how she's still talking about this guy right now to this day.
Tooth that drove me wild. His flaws were like manna from heaven for me. And
so that's why it's important to know when a woman likes you. Yep, when she chooses you and she like you, it don't matter what you do.
I loved his dirty draws and I could just sleep in his armpit right after he'd played a game of like pickup basketball. That is how much I loved this man. And our courtship was a whirlwind. He wined and dined me. He bought me lovely, lovely gifts. I'd wake up to those baby blue Tiffany boxes just laid on the pillow right next to me. We could go to my favorite store, and as long as I put on a little fashion show for him, everything I wanted I could get. But when I say that the gifts really mattered nothing to me, it was this man. He was the gift to me. That's just the fact. And we were 6 months into our relationship when the first sign of trouble appeared. I was in Denver for All-Star Weekend, and I was working for BET at the time. So I had a lot of responsibilities. I had to make a lot of appearances. I had to interview a lot of people, and a lot of those people were athletes. And he was back home. And I did not know that he was jealous. It didn't even cross my mind. And so when I got home after an event and I was perturbed by, an interaction with a strange man at a party that I had been at, he'd said something vile to me and it hurt my feelings. And all I wanted was to be comforted. And so I went back to my hotel room and I called my boyfriend and I just asked him to just tell me that he thought that I was beautiful and that he loved me. And he didn't do that. He just pressured me to tell him what happened. Why are you asking me to do this? And so I told him what happened, and he responded by saying, why would I want to date such a weak bitch that would be that offended by what some strange guy has to say to her? There's just no way that he just said that to me.
And it's something I bet you that turned her on, and she just wanted him even more. But yeah, so I mean, so this he definitely spoke his mind, this but I would have said it like that, but then still, this I definitely see where he's coming from.
I'm sorry, what? And he said, you heard me. And I said, I'm really confused right now. And he was like, I'm sure you are. I felt like I was talking to a stranger. There's no way that this was the person that I had just spent the last 6 months with, completely absorbed with, and in the throes of like love and ecstasy with. And I said, I'm glad that I'm finding out who you really actually are now rather than later. He said, yeah, I'm sure you are. Click. And hung up the phone on me. I cried myself
Man, that was gangster the thing. So yep, this
to sleep that night. And the next day I had to.
she cried herself to sleep though, and I bet you she can feel it even more. She loved him so much more that he was just so bold to do that and hang up and not kiss her ass just because she's Melyssa Ford. But he said, wow, so he's a real man.
Cover a ladies' luncheon, the wives of the NBA. And so I had to be perfect and pretty. And I had to act like the man of my dreams had not just told me to basically go F myself. And so while I was getting ready, a large bouquet of flowers was delivered. My makeup artist said, Mel, you should read the card. And it said, you're beautiful to me and I love you. And I'm sorry. And then his name. I burst into tears. It just flew out of my face. So basically, my whole beat face just melted. And I called him and I said, I received your flowers. And he said, I am so sorry. And I told him, I'm going to forgive you because I love you. But you can't ever speak to me like that ever again. He's like, I promise I won't. So whenever people wonder, how do people end up in abusive relationships and why do you stay? The reasons are aplenty, but I will start by saying that that is not the way that it begins. It begins with love bombing. It begins with flowers, candy, gifts, and the wonderful sex and the cuddles and the pillow talk. And this is how it begins. And it can last for a lengthy amount of time before that person really shows up. The true version of themselves shows up. And by that point, you start to bargain with yourself and they start to apologize. And their apologies are usually very, very sincere because at the end of the day, I truly believe that they believe their apologies are real. They just have an illness inside of them. And I would also venture to say that the first signs of abuse are usually not physical. And by the time it gets to physicality, you start to reason that you were an active participant in it. You start to reason with yourself that you started the fight by angering him or saying something that was out of pocket. Or you reason with yourself that you are no shrinking violet. So it's not like you got hit and cowered in a corner. You fought back. These are the things that you reason and bargain with yourself that allow you to stay in this level of toxic relationship. And so, as much as I would love to say that that was the last time that he spoke to me in that way, and that was the last time that I received it, that would not be the truth. We were together for another year and a half, and I accepted his marriage proposal. And a lot of you would probably be asking why.
So and then something. So he treat her bad, do this, but then still she loves him. She loves his dirty draws. And the first guy would do anything for her. The first guy, he was handsome. The family liked him, but then still, she would not be with the first guy. She would not even consider that a real proposal. But the second guy, she loves him still to this day.
Why would you do that? Why would you accept the marriage proposal of this man that was so abusive towards you and unfaithful towards you and really bad at it? Like, I found out everything all the time, and I don't really have an excuse for it other than I was addicted to him. Was working at
Addicted to him. So yeah, so she has high interest in him, and then that's actually the best way when a woman is feeling you like that, y'all. That's the best way. But a lot of you guys are chasing a woman that don't even like you. She's just using you. She's just tolerating you. She's just bored, and that's how a lot of guys are dealing with women. The women don't even like you just because she's beautiful, just because you want to have sex with her so bad, you tolerate all kind of disrespect, and you're not the one that she chose. So when a woman is really feeling you, yeah, so it's just that she would do whatever.
BET at the time when we were dating, and more than once observations were made about bruises on my body and how skinny I was getting, obviously from the stress. And people had voiced concern.
And one thing that I want to say that which some women, I'm not saying that she's this way, but some women do not respect you unless you hit them. Some women are like that, unfortunately.
For me, but I just shooed them away. We tussle. It's fine. No problem. But there really was a reason for concern. I stayed through it all and accepted the marriage proposal. The final straw for me was his reaction to finding out that my mom was ill. I had gotten a phone call while I was out with him and his family, and he was acting up as per usual. And I got a phone call from my aunt telling me that my mom had been rushed to the hospital. I was in Texas. So in order for me to rush home to see my mom, I would have to leave Texas, go home to New York, pick up my passport, and then go to Canada. And when I told him what was going on, obviously I was looking for empathy and sympathy and compassion, and that was not what I got. It was on this day that I finally could see the forest for the trees. If I stayed in this relationship, in 10 years, I would have that white picket fence, and I would have the 2 kids, and I would be an abused woman, hiding her bruises and her broken bones and her scars from her family and her friends and society at large, because I was a forward-facing media personality / model. My mom's sickness was, strangely enough, a blessing in disguise. And that relationship came to an end. And that was the first full engagement. So 1.5. So that's where we are right now.
Any advice for any beautiful women out there to try and make it? Any advice you have to give? Because I know it's a hard struggle.
Understand that there's no shortcuts and there's a lot of sacrifices involved in this game that nobody will ever tell you. You're asking for a lot when you want to become, as visible as, some people on this carpet or for that. Yeah, exactly. The right way. It's just be careful. Be careful what you wish for.
When I was 20 years old, I had this boyfriend.
I gotta say, I mean, that was some great advice. So yeah, it's about making sacrifices, and then that's one of the reasons why most people, they don't accomplish their goals, because they're not willing to make sacrifices. Or then this is the other reason why It's because they want everything all at once. They can't choose. So she's definitely one of those women that suffer from that, but she just can't pick. She wants everything all at once.
His name was Tony Smith. I can say his name because I mean, like, you could throw a rock and hit a Tony Smith. I mean, it may as well be like John Doe. He was from Greensboro, North Carolina, and he had come up to Toronto to play for the Toronto Argos, which is a football team in the Canadian Football League. And he had played in the National Football League, the NFL, for many years. And a lot of NFL players, you know, when they're not ready to hang up their cleats, you know, and not ready to, like, you know, kind of be put out to pasture, they'll come to the CFL. And so I met Tony at this festival called Caravana in Toronto. He was so beautiful. My God, instant attraction, obviously. And we started dating. We genuinely liked each other. We liked each other to the point where we could say really, really offhand things to each other. For example, he asked me what my fantasy was. And I got this look on my face. And I said, well, a fantasy would be, I guess, a menage with me and you and somebody else. And he was like, another woman? I said, no, with another guy. And he was like, really? He was like, do you have an idea as to who this guy is? I said, yeah. He's like, really? You have to tell me. I said, it's your best friend. And I expected.
So out of all the people for her to want to have another to have sex with, she will want to have sex with his best friend. So out of everybody. So yeah, but I mean, she was honest, you know, but it's still, but what he said next was astonishing.
Him to maybe slap me, I don't know what, but he threw his head back and roared with laughter. And I was like, wow, that was not the response I was expecting. And he said, do you want me to make that happen? I was like, oh my God, that is.
Red alert, red alert, red alert. It's okay. So for her man that she's with in a relationship to say that he will let her and him and have sex with his best male friend, so it's obviously, it's either two, I say about two different things. It's either he's bisexual or he was with her, but then still, you know, he kind of looked at her as a jump off, you know, because if a man is truly feeling his woman, and then on top of that, though, this is his best friend, so that means that she would be seeing him regularly. So it's either one or the two.
So sweet. No, absolutely not. It is just a fantasy. It is meant to stay there. But just the fact that you are open to it and don't make me feel shame for feeling this way. He was like, why would I make you feel that way? And Tony, I don't know. He maybe he was just an anomaly, but wherever we would go, no matter how scantily I was dressed, he would let me move around the party as I felt the need to and interact with anybody. And he would just sit there and just watch me with a smile. At one point, somebody stood next to him and asked him, like, you know, aren't you afraid to let her walk around like that? And he was like, absolutely not. She's going home with me. I don't have anything to be worried about. And you.
Like, now that was cold. So that's something that I actually would do and something I would say, because he has high confidence in himself and he's not intimidated by men that have a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of fame. So like now that was a coach. So that guy Tony, he must be a Mac.
Want to know something? He was absolutely right. His level of confidence and knowing that I had eyes for nobody but him was what made him so much more sexy to me. so much more attractive and made me like.
Or then too, if he was a man that he just didn't care whether she actually left me for another man or not, it could have been also that too. You're like, well, okay, a woman is going to do what she want to do, so it could have been that too.
And love him so much more. I wish that I could say that the vast majority of my relationships went like this, but they didn't. They didn't. I'm going to take a sip of wine. I was raised as an only child. My father was a Rolling Stone, and I am the youngest of 11. But I am my mother's only child, and I was raised in a two-parent household, just me on my own. I used to wish constantly for a brother and a sister or a twin. It was around 6 when I figured out the twin thing was not going to happen. But I really wanted a brother or a sister because I was lonely. And I was smack in the middle of a very tumultuous marriage. Some of my earliest memories as a child are of my parents arguing and physically fighting each other. At one point, I was 5 and I got in the middle of my parents physically fighting each other. My mom was holding a glass pitcher above her head and was prepared to smash it on my dad's head. And I want to say that this was in defense of herself. This was her protecting herself. So, needless to say, my first.
Or they could have just been her assaulting your dad. So yeah, you see that, y'all. So she been through all this trauma, been through this, all the relationships. So yeah, so she been through a lot.
Introduction to marriage and how men and women, the expectation of how they interact with each other on a romantic level was very, 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 very traumatizing. And they didn't do anything to try to correct it. They didn't sit me down and explain things to me or apologize to me. I think that that's something that parents really miss the mark on a lot of the time, is that you are not perfect. You are human. And to be a human being is to err. And sometimes you do things to unintentionally harm your children or traumatize them, and they deserve an explanation and they deserve an apology. When my parents were not arguing with each other, they were staying as far away from each other as possible. And what that meant was I was left home alone a lot. So one of the main reasons why my parents never said no to me when I wanted another animal. I had nothing but cats and dogs and birds and fish all over the house. I feel like animals saved me. It sounds strange, like I'm like, Mowgli or something from the, what's that book called? The Jungle Book? Yeah, I'm Mowgli from the Jungle Book. But yeah, that was my reality. My parents would come home late at night. The animals were the ones that took care of me. Thankfully, I didn't burn down the house. But this left an imprint on my brain as to the way that men and women interact with each other. And it left me with a very serious internalized distrust of men. I think that this is where I developed the disconnect.
So think about it. So even since she was a child, though, she never seen a regular functional relationship. And so that definitely makes a big difference as to how she can't choose a mate.
Connect of wanting to create progeny. I just did not feel that urge like other women have to have children. And it is definitely intertwined with what I witnessed from a very early age as to my parents and their dysfunction. I ended up getting an IUD implanted in my uterus. And when I say that sucker was Fort Knox, nothing was getting through that mofo.
I never heard of that. IUD in her uterus. Oof.
And it stayed in so long that it ultimately made the decision for me. But yet again, it's not like I felt any source of pressure. Which leads me to,
You see that, y'all? So that's a great point. So that's what happens. So ladies, so if you can't choose, nature would choose for you.
the last engagement when I was approximately 36, 37 years old. And I'll be honest, I thought that I was in love with this man, but I wasn't. What I was traumatized from an experience that had happened to me on a cruise ship where I was almost raped. And I could not be in the room alone with my own shadow. I was so traumatized by what had happened to me that when this man appeared, he was offering safety and security. He was physically huge, but he also came with a very secure lifestyle and a lot of security. And so I felt safe. And that's the only thing I was looking for. I was looking for safety. And so I lied to myself. And it was very easy to do that, to just dive in head first, forget the rocks below. And during the process of this relationship, I started to realize that I was losing myself completely and totally. Friends had started to notice, you know, Mel, you're paying a lot of attention to his career, but what are you doing about yours? And I didn't want to hear it. I actually did not want to even hear my own name. I didn't know what it meant to be Melyssa Ford anymore. I had no clue. The sound of my own name gave me goosebumps, and not in the best way. I was having a massive identity crisis. And so when he proposed, he didn't even get the full words out before I said yes, because I was running from myself. I was running from my truth. I was running from the healing journey that was on the horizon. I was running, and I was trying to put the blinders on. But there was always that like internal sense of that steel core of resilience and tenacity inside of me that said, Melyssa, this is not your truth. This is not your path. This is not it. And as scary as it was to keep trying to align myself with my internal compass, obviously, you know, you make all these decisions, but it's got to bring you back pointing due north, which leads me to where I am now, 48, child-free, and never been married. And honestly, with zero regrets.
Did you ever decide to freeze your eggs?
Yeah, the freezing eggs conversation came up around mid-30s amongst myself and my girlfriends. It became something that just was a very trendy conversation to have. But if you know anything about freezing eggs, first of all, it's extraordinarily cost prohibitive. I was in the entertainment industry, and this is the way the entertainment industry goes. Feast, famine, feast, famine, feast, famine. Sometimes you're living high on the hog, and other times you are eating Ritz crackers and eating out of cans of tuna. A lot of times it's freelance work. You don't know when your next paycheck is gonna come, and sometimes you will go a whole year without a job, and you are fighting to make ends meet and stretching $10,000 to last over the course of 6 months to a year. So freezing your eggs.
So it sounds like that would have been a great time to find a man that you liked it and get on the same page as him and then go and settle down and be with him. So it can help you when times happen like that. Just a thought.
Was a luxury. And now what we know about egg freezing is that it's not a guarantee that any one of them is going to be viable, or that even when they're implanted in your uterus, that they're going to, that it's going to take. So it really is a crapshoot. And it's also an extraordinarily painful process. When I said that God is not a woman, I mean it, because there is no way that a woman would put us through everything that we have to go through just to manifest our so-called fairy tales, or our fairy tale ending. The choices that I ended up not making, pursuit of marriage and kids and this and that sort of thing, it wouldn't have cost me anything by way of, disapproval of family. My mother was raised Catholic. She was a day girl in a convent. Her parents were from the Eastern European bloc. She lived in Europe until she was 15 years old when her family immigrated to Canada, and her mother died shortly after they had immigrated. My mother was 15, almost 16 years old. And my mother ended up meeting my godmother in the same high school, in the same grade as I met my best friend, but 30 years apart, which is so cute and so funny. And when they met, they're both from the old country and they'd both been raised Catholic. They both said to each other, let's make a pact. If we ever have female children, we're not going to raise them Catholic. There's something about Catholicism that makes women feel like they're second-class citizens, like they are there for that marriage is a sacrament, and it's a holy sacrament, and you are there to obey your husband without any, consideration as to what you may need, what you may feel, what you may want. And they had seen their mothers and their grandmothers and their aunts.
But isn't a woman supposed to be a helpmate for her man and her husband? Because he has to put his life on the line. Is this something was to happen? If somebody was to come inside the house, he has to put his life on the line. He can't just pick and choose when he wants to be masculine. Just a thought.
Live lives that did not belong to them, and they decided that that was not the lives that they were going to give their female children. So my mother had me, and my godmother Renata had a daughter named Laura, and we were not raised religious at all. To the point where I literally told my mom, I was like, can I go to Catholic school? She was like, no. I really just wanted to go because I liked the uniforms and I didn't want to look for something to wear every single day. But my mother was steadfast that no, any curiosity that you have with religion, you can go and seek that out on your own. But I'm not going to hold you to, an indoctrination that doesn't really belong to you. You make your own choices. And so when it came to checking boxes, my mom had already decided what my daughter's life is for her to live. And I'm lucky in that way. Very, very lucky in that way. My mom gave me suggestions and she made observations, but they were always so subtle. And she always knew that I was going to do whatever I wanted to do, however I wanted to do it. And that was the end of the story. I was a very strong-willed child, strong-willed teenager, strong-willed young lady, strong-willed adult woman. So I was never subject to those checked boxes, but I found myself in conversation over the years with many, many women that felt that pressure. And when it comes to those checked boxes, as it relates to marriage, I'm not sure if the vast majority of us go looking for these as factors in why we choose somebody. I think a lot of the times, as long as he's a good provider, that's the biggest check mark. Does he look good? Is he presentable? Do we have some things in common? Does he plan on being a good provider? Do we both want kids? Do we both want to get married? These are the things that people ask themselves, and this is what helps them make their decision. But they find out years into the marriage that it takes so much more to make a marriage successful than just those things. One of
And I got something to add too. I was listening to Morris Chestnut, and he's like a famous actor, and he was in like a whole bunch of movies that we love. He was in with The Sixth Man, and he was in just a few other movies. So he was in Boys in the Hood, and one thing that he said was the major secret as to how he can be with his wife for over 20 years is like they watch how they talk to each other and they don't take it too far. So he always respects his wife and he never takes it too far, and she don't disrespect him. So it's always a certain amount of respect. So that was a great tip.
the main things that I think is missing from a lot of people deciding on getting married is how much of a friendship have you built with this person? Because like outlasts love 1,000% of the time. Through the course of my career and just life in general, I have spoken to so many successfully married couples, and success means that they still like each other decades later. That's success. They still wake up and want to participate in this partnership. That is success. And that's what they say, that like is more substantial than love. And looking back on my relationships,
And I would say, I can see that, but I would say that with a man, it's all about respect. So just a man needs respect like he needs breath, and then a woman needs love like she needs breath. So, and then in men's eyes, if a woman really loves her man, she will respect him, and she will not, do certain things to disrespect him. So that's how men look at it.
I realized that like was not high on my list of priorities. And that's probably the reason for failures. So before I sign off, I saw something on Instagram that I wanted to read today. It says, marriage is the lowest paid form of sex work. Women are owed reparations. The people.
This is hilarious. Lowest paid form of sex work. But then if you all want to think about it and keep it 100, it's like there are so many women that they got rich from marrying a man. They became millionaires from marrying a man. It's so many women. And then it's actually designed that, okay, that's why 80% of the black marriages in America, the woman is filing for divorce because she has incentives to leave her man. So just because being a woman, you should get reparations. That's that feminist talk.
People we lay with are the people who are most likely to kill us, which sounds really dark, but that's the reality we're living in. The reality is women have lost their lives in pursuit of men. Women have lost their futures in.
I would say that women lost their lives in pursuit of their career. I would say that though, because that's the most important thing that mainly they've been trained to care about, to give the best years of their life to their job and their career and the streets.
Pursuit of love. I think we all need to really sit down and ask ourselves as individuals, what does love actually mean for me? And what in my life resembles that? Does the man that I've chosen resemble that love that I want and deserve? The traditional.
Man, hold a second, and Melyssa, I got something else though. This is something else that is still shocking to me that I realize that a lot of women don't think about though. And this is some game for the ladies. Okay, I want you all to think about, man. Okay, the kind of man that I want, the kind of man that I desire. What does this kind of man want in a woman? I want you all to think about that though, which unfortunately a lot of women do not take that in thought at all. So they just want what they want, but then without saying, man, okay, for me to be with this kind of man, so it's going to require for me to be this kind of woman. This is so the man that I want to be with he wants this kind of woman. Okay, number one, I think, you all know that men are attracted to women who are fit in tone, but why are you not prioritizing your fitness? Why are you not, getting your eating habits in order? Why are you not investing in personal development, self-improvement? That's very important. What do the kind of man that you want in a woman?
Idea of love is damaging for women because it involves us being self-sacrificial in order to prove our worth. Men need to learn to find sustenance, entertainment, and sexual gratification outside of women because we
Hold on. So a man is supposed to make all these sacrifices and take all these gambles, and then he shouldn't be only focusing on being with one woman and having sex with her. So he's supposed to just not want to have sex with. This is hilarious.
don't owe men that. We live in a society where men assign women humanity and worth based on how attractive they are to them.
And what's wrong with that? Women know that men are visual. Women know that, but instead of they want to go and shame men for what they want and what they like. We're not shaming you all for wanting men to protect you and provide for you. We're not shaming you for that though. But by you knowing that a man wants a woman to be physically attractive, you're shaming him for what he wants. That's a problem. He has the right to want what he wants, just like how you had a right to want what you want. But the question is, can you get what you want? Can you keep the kind of man that you want? That's the main test.
Men need to learn to find sustenance, entertainment, and sexual gratification outside of women because we don't owe men that deserved a repeat.
You see that, y'all? So I'm like, so where's the accountability? So she lived a hot girl summer. She did this, she did that. So yeah, but once again, when I see women like her that she's attractive, she had all kind of options. She kept her body tight for the most part. She just couldn't settle with one man. She just couldn't get on a man purpose. And then this is what happens when you're all about your career and you can't decide, and then everything is about you and you just can't make it work. This is what happens. And we need more older women to tell younger women the truth. Okay, man, when I was this age, I should have spent and put more effort in wanting to be with, a man and making this work. If I wanted to get married, I should have made that a priority, not just me, being with having flings with all these different men and making money.
Thank you so much for joining me on this very personal episode. But what I want to leave you guys with is I want every woman listening to this to understand that you have and you should exercise all of your choices. The way that things are going, Roe v. Wade being overturned, it is an act of defiance to embrace your individualism, to embrace your own identity, to embrace your wants, your hopes, your dreams, to embrace the way that you see your life going, how you see fit. It is your life to decide what happens in it. If you want to get out of bed and you want to make a million things happen in the course of a day, or if you want to be lazy and do absolutely nothing, everything is your choice. And in addition to that, there's a phrase that I heard recently that I absolutely love. And for any man listening to this, I do not say this to be offensive in any type of way. As a matter of fact, take yourself out of the equation because you're really not a part of it. And that is said with love. The phrase is decentering. Women have been conditioned to feel like men are the centerpiece of our lives, and everything else takes place on the peripheral.
But isn't it, Melyssa, isn't it the job of a woman is to be a helpmate for a man?
Careers, our friendships, our social circles, our school, everything that we do is peripheral to centering a man, finding a man claiming us, a man being our husband, a man. When in actuality, it's you.
No. I mean, everything you do is for attention from a man. Everything else from a man. You say that though, but yeah. So that's
It's about you and it's about your choice. If you never end up finding the quote unquote one, guess what? There
what it is. Is you actually have found the one, but you just couldn't settle. You just couldn't choose. You had plenty of options. You had the one. You had, and this what I've been saying all the time. Women like Melyssa Ford had way more opportunities than most women. The women who are attractive, their body type, so men have been at her. She had way more options than most people, period. But she just couldn't choose. She wanted the perfect circumstance. She wanted the perfect everything. And she wound up,
there's
yeah.
so much more that life has to offer you that will make it okay. Love is wonderful. Finding a relationship is wonderful, but not at the expense of yourself. And that's just my little bit of lived wisdom and experience. These are the things that I've learned. And I hope that what I've shared with you today, you find useful in any way, shape, or form. Maybe you don't want to be anything like me, and that's completely okay. But hopefully, some of the stories that I've told you today resonated with you in some way where you felt seen, heard, understood, but at the very least, entertained. Thank you so much for joining me, everybody, on Hot.
So okay, so and then but this is what I want to know. So what's the advice that she would have gave the women that she wished that she would have done before? So that's what we need. We need, so where's the accountability? What's the advice? So she's not telling women, okay, man, so I'm at around this age. If you actually want to have kids and get married, you should go and focus on spending this amount of time on making this happen. Where's that kind of advice? She's not giving women that kind of advice. So yeah, and then I'm gonna tell you all. So ladies, so if you actually want to get married and have kids, you need to work on being able to, while you're in the height of your prime of your looks, you need to work on finding a man to be with. And if you want to get married, you need to get married when you're at the height of your physical prime. Yes, 24, 25. You need to choose and do all this when you're at your height, not just wait till you're in your 30s and 40s and you done been through all this trauma and have so much going on, and and then you deal with all these problems, so it's hard for you to even get along with a man because you done seen too much and done so much. We need women to tell women that, give them some advice, and be honest. Okay, so when I was at this age, I should have been focusing more on me, on being able to to settle down with this man. Oh, this is the kind of man that I actually should have married. So yeah. So you see, y'all, so she had a few different guys, that wanted to be with her, but it wasn't enough. She couldn't choose. So I hope you all enjoy the show. And yeah, but one thing I gotta say though is that she did keep her look in order. So this is one of the reasons why she was able to always get hot men and men that had things going on, because she kept her look in order. And like I said, she got nice legs too. Well, yeah. So definitely, but ladies, if you would like help with finally being able to get your look in order, you've been having these bad habits for over 20 years regarding to food. You're addicted to food. You're eating in your feelings. These are things that hinder you from being the best version of yourself. These are things that stopping you from getting the kind of body that you want. These are things that stopping you from you having the best image possible. So she made sure that her look is in order, her image was on point. So that's the reason why you see that the average Black American woman is 187 pounds and she's 5'4". It's because she hasn't been prioritizing her health or fitness. Everything else is more important. She hasn't made fitness a non-negotiable. Just like how you all go and brush your teeth every single morning, your health and your fitness, you have to be dedicated toward being the best version of yourself. You had to be dedicated toward, and which you actually should want to look amazing for your man. You should. What's wrong with that? So, ladies, Solomon Fitness World is where strength meets elegance. So if you want to support the channel, you can go and buy my bands that help you be able to tone your body. If you would like help with getting training, where I can take you by the hand and help you regarding changing your bad behavior habits and keeping you consistent regarding your fitness, your training. Everything I do on my app is how I help women in real time, and I can make sure that they do what they're supposed to do. You can fill out my application. You go to SolomonFitnessWorld.com and you can go and press the white button and you can go and fill out my application, and I will review the application and we'll see if my training program is a good fit for you. Or you can go to SolomonFitnessWorld.typeform.com and fill out my application. You can get a membership to support the channel. You can do that. And remember, God wants you healthy and fit. And the devil wants you to procrastinate and put it off and make excuses. Don't let the devil win. I love you all. See you all next time. Share this video with a friend that will benefit from this advice, or a friend that wants to go and get their look in order. I'll see you all next time.